Okay.
Lions are fortunately small fish, growing up to 33 centimeters max, but their bites are painful, and one could easily bite off your fingertip since they prefer live food. So don't go in for a closer look because they go, latch onto your nose, and they have no nose. Number 8 are snakes. If snakes on a plane taught us anything, it's that snakes are dangerous. And Samuel L. Jackson is awesome. And yet, some people keep snakes as pets, wear pythons around their necks like a scarf, and even do exotic dances with them. Unless you're a snake charmer who can control a cobra with your flute, I would advise you to get a turtle or a dog or maybe even a stuffed animal. Poisonous snakes like cobras, vipers, and squirrels are illegal to own in most Western countries. But money talks, and people keep all sorts of deadly serpents in their house to show off to their guests. John, where's your dog? You snake hate it. But the most dangerous common snakes that people keep are, believe it or not, pythons and boa constrictors, who, as advertised, can constrict around necks, choking their inexperienced owners, children, and smaller pets to death. That's like buying a pet called Guaranteed to Try to Kill You. Not a good idea. Come here, little Guaranteed to Try to Kill You. He's cute, just watch. Number 7 is the crocodile monitor. In case you didn't know, the word crocodile means I'm gonna eat you. Yet, reptile lovers still insist they can handle a crocodile monitor lizard that can grow up to 4 meters in length. Native to the rainforest of New Guinea, they are aggressive, territorial, and believe it or not, intelligent creatures that test their owners and try to outsmart them at every turn. So without proper socialization, you can have a homicidal miniature Godzilla walking around your house.
Okay.
Prefer to eat their food live. They are typically fed guinea pigs, rabbits, and chickens, but hungry ones have been known to eat cats and dogs, and you if you're not careful. They've been known to inflict serious damage on novice owners and can easily bite your finger off, or for that matter, your arm. But somehow, these apex predators that can grow longer than a man are legal pets. Folks, if you want to wrestle a crocodile lizard in your house, you go right ahead. But for me, I'll just sit back and watch. Let natural selection take over. Number 6 are scorpions. Okay, I'm suspicious of anyone who keeps insects or spiders as pets, especially poisonous ones. So if I ever meet someone taking their pet scorpion for a walk, bye! Like spiders, scorpions are arachnids. But instead of spinning webs, these 8-legged creatures deliver doses of venom that will kill you. The emperor scorpion, which is the most commonly kept scorpion, won't kill a human unless they have an allergic reaction. But there are species of scorpions, like the appropriately named Death Stalker, that can cause paralysis, coma, and of course, death. But if you aren't sold yet as to why you should buy a scorpion as a pet, keep in mind that they're also escape artists that can squeeze through small cracks, causing apartment buildings, trains, and planes to be evacuated. And won't that make you the coolest kid on the block? Number 5 are monkeys. Having a monkey, the clown of the animal kingdom, to come home to after a long day of work and watch them do parlor tricks is a dream that some people try to make reality, but sometimes with disastrous consequences. They're known for their mischievous ways and poop-throwing tantrums. But I am not monkeying around here when I say that they can be some seriously dangerous pets. The smaller species of monkeys, like the black-capped capuchins and squirrel monkeys, can't do much more than trash your living room. But the so-called old world monkeys from Africa and Asia are larger and more dangerous with big canine teeth. And in case monkey bites aren't enough, many monkeys, especially the ones caught in the wild, have salmonella, monkeypox, tuberculosis, and herpes. Go ahead, put one on your couch next to your kid. Watch what happens. Number 4 are wolves. Man and dog have been BFFs way before even BFF was a thing, and it all started with wolves. So you might be wondering, why not just get a wolf instead of a doggy? Well, that's because wolves are bloodthirsty predators who hunt in packs with sophisticated communication methods through variously pitched howls. And as you probably guessed, that's not the best way to teach little Timmy about personal responsibility. Wolves are, by nature, skittish and reclusive around humans. So throw a breed meant to roam the tundra, hunting reindeer and moose into a domestic situation, and they might just lash out violently. But hey, the upside is if you're looking for more exercise, you'll definitely be running a lot more, specifically from the wolves. Number 3 are bears. Yeah, you heard that right. Someone's keeping a bear. Believe it or not, some people who aren't in the Moscow circus have tamed grizzly bears that they and help raise their kids like it's a live-action Berenstain Bear. Sorry, I meant Berenstain Bear. Berenstain. It's a Mandela effect. The little tiny problem with that is that they're really intelligent, really strong, and highly active creatures that grow to become as tall as a man and weigh as much as 270 kilograms. Bears kept in captivity develop neuroses that make them capable of literally biting the hands that feed them, or their heads off. Oh, in case you didn't know, bears are alpha predators with enormous claws and jaws that have enough pressure to crush a bowling ball. Or again, your skull, your choice. Number 2 are lions and tigers. Lions and tigers and poor lifestyle choices, oh my! It seems obvious that big cats are better suited living in zoos, or in their natural habitat killing everything. But some people just have to be the cool guy walking his liger into Starbucks. Yeah, hi, it's a liger, it's my favorite. These cats are not going to just turn into a fat tabby who eats lasagna, chases lasers, and gets stoned on catnip. No. They grow into 418 kilogram monsters and eat more meat than most people can afford. Even the most tame big cat can attack, such as in the case of Roy Horn of Siegfried and Roy, whose big cat show wowed Las Vegas for decades until he was mauled by the white tiger that he raised, paralyzing him. But then there's regular old people like Antoine Yates of Harlem, who kept a Bengal tiger in his small New York apartment, who, as you guessed it, tried to eat him. So yeah, these things are not Garfield. They're dead. They're death cats. Okay. And number 1 are chimpanzees. Chimpanzees are one of the smartest creatures on Earth, with so much in common with us that we confuse their behavior as being human. Chimps have such a complex cognition that you can't predict their behavior in unfamiliar environments, which complicates things because they are good at escaping enclosures. Enclosures, aka your house. When a chimp's on the loose, they aren't just biting bananas. No, they often attack people, sometimes biting off body parts. In Connecticut in 2009, the ex-TV star Travis Chimp ripped Charla Nash's face off and blinded her, and was later shot dead by police when he charged at an officer. You know what? I'm done. Just get a stuffed animal. Just get a darn stuffed animal. You don't have to feed it. It's not going to eat your face. That's it. Done. So those were the 10 most dangerous exotic pets that, for some reason, people keep. But if you guys enjoyed this, remember to give it a big thumbs up, and also remember to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications by clicking the little bell beside the subscribe button so that you never miss a thing, because I upload new videos all the time, baby. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye now. Buzz. Oh, hey there. You look kind of tasty. Mind if I have a bite? Thanks. Insects are often annoying. I mean, no one wants to get bit by a mosquito. But there are some insects in this world that make mosquitoes look like a good time. Because they're not just annoying, they can kill you. Here are 10 deadliest insects in the world. Number 10 is the bullet ant.
Want some alcohol?
There are some
Want some
incredibly
weed?
dangerous insects out there, no question.
You want to do anything today?
Creature has a sting that those who have experienced them have claimed they would be
But you keep a blanket on you. Okay, you're cool. You're cool, kid. You're cool.
more specifically rainforests like in Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and Honduras, as well as several South American countries. It gets its nickname from its sting, which often leaves the bullet ant's victims with wave after wave of throbbing, burning pain that continues to relentlessly torment for over 24 hours. Like a bee sting on steroids. The ant's venom, phanerotoxin, directly affects the central nervous system, blocking synaptic transmissions, which can lead to paralysis. Still, probably better than a real bullet, but best avoided. Number 9 is the botfly. Found in Central and South Americas, botflies are insects that don't just simply pester humans, but actually turn them into their own disgusting nurseries. Oh, you like warm? I'm just gonna put some children. Hold on. These insects, which look more like bees than flies, are covered in hair, use other bugs such as mosquitoes and ticks to transport up to 50 of their eggs to potential hosts. That means you! Once they come into contact with warm human skin, the larvae will attach themselves and hatch, the babies burrowing down and eating their way into the muscle while maintaining a painful hole to breathe through. Okay, this gets gross. Hosts can often feel them moving, with some claiming they can actually hear the parasites consuming them. Most often, maggots drop out of the host after 6 to 8 weeks, only leaving a scar, but sometimes they can eat their way to dangerous areas, such as the eye or even the brain. See, that's where he burrowed in. I call him Dave. Wait, I think he got to my brain. Number 8 are killer bees. Created by scientists in Brazil who were attempting to increase honey production in the 1950s, the Africanized or killer bee is a cross between the African honeybee and various European species. These insects slowly make their way to North America after 26 swarms somehow escaped quarantine in 1957. Yeah, we're free. We're gonna start some trouble. By 1990, hives of the dangerous creatures have been found as far north as Texas. Killer bees react more quickly and intensely than other bees and have been known to chase someone over 500 meters after being disturbed, stinging them over and over. Their venom can cause problems in the respiratory system, renal failure, and even issues with the victim's heart. To date, these bees have taken over 1,000 human lives as well as countless pets, horses, and other animals that somehow managed to upset them. And you thought you were afraid of getting stung before. It gets worse! Number 7 are fire ants. Named both for their scorching color and burning pain that they inflict while attacking, fire ants are found all over the world, but have become a fairly big problem in the southern United States. It's saying something that, at least in the United States, nearly 60% of the people who live in areas where fire ants can be found are stung by these insects each year, and many of them find themselves in the hospital due to having an allergic reaction to the ant's venom or simply receiving too many bites and stings. Tragically, a number of people have lost their lives to these tiny yet fiery pests, while tens of millions of others have had to deal with minor injuries. Oh, that's that little red ant. I'm on fire! Reports show that fire ants cause around $750 million in damage to the agricultural industry, and around $5 billion is spent on medical treatment to deal with them. So class, what did you learn today? Stay away from red ants? Yes, Timmy, that's right. Stay away. Medical bills are high. Number 6 is the giant Japanese hornet. If you have a fear of wasps or hornets, then these things are probably the stuff of your nightmares. The giant Japanese hornet can grow to more than 4.5 centimeters in length with a wingspan of over 6 centimeters. That's a big bug! These huge versions of the insect are more than just a pest in Japan and become very aggressive upon provocation, stinging their targets and injecting their venom with a 6.25 millimeter long stinger. It's kind of like getting a huge needle, except it's full of venom, and on an insect's butt. While the smaller, more common hornets can kill an individual who is allergic to their venom, the giant Japanese hornet can kill someone who isn't allergic. The toxins attack the nervous system and can even cause renal failure. Every year in Japan, between 30 and 40 people lose their lives due to stings from bees and wasps. And these giant hornets are a big reason for that. Just a little something to think about next time you plan a picnic. Number 5 are driver ants. Unlike the popular nursery rhyme, these ants don't go marching one by one. They go marching in droves, and though tiny, their destructive capabilities are uncanny. Located primarily in Central and Eastern Africa, driver ants are known for how efficiently they overwhelm and consume their prey. That could be you. These insects have mandibles, power scissor-like jaws that are incredibly large in relation to their bodies. Though they can sting as well, driver ants most often use these mandibles to latch onto their target, tearing through it swiftly and causing severe pain. The jaws of these creatures are so strong that they are often used as emergency sutures, and the healer making them bite down on a gash before breaking off the body. Now the good news is one bite likely won't kill you. However, driver ants form colonies of up to 20 million, and that many can. How can he look at Anthill? Stay away! Stay away! That thing, stay away! Nope. Number 4 is the kissing bug. Although it has a cute sounding name, this insect is one you definitely don't want to be intimate with. Also referred to as vampire bugs and assassin bugs, as well as many other names across their habitats, kissing bugs are so named due to the fact that they tend to focus their bites on a person's face, specifically their lips, while the victim is asleep. But that's not all. Get ready for more grossness. They then defecate in the small wounds, infecting the individual with a parasite called a trypanosoma cruzi. This parasite causes Chagras's disease, a condition that can affect the central nervous system and even the heart. Chagras's disease complications took nearly 8,000 lives in 2015, with most of the deaths occurring in Mexico, Central America, and South America. This is because that's most commonly where kissing bugs are found. Guess where I'm not moving? Anybody? Anybody? Okay, those places. Those places. Number 3 are tsetse flies. Also referred to as tick-tick flies, these insects have existed for ages, with some fossilized remains being discovered in Colorado, United States, that date back to around 34 million years ago. Tsetse flies are parasites. They survive by consuming blood from vertebrates and deliver nasty bites to those that they see as a food source. Found most often in tropical areas in Africa, these pests are notorious not only for the nasty stings you get when they bite you, but for the potentially deadly diseases that they can transmit from one host to the next. The most common of these diseases is trypanosomiasis, often referred to as sleeping sickness, which causes lethargy, weight loss, and anemia. The disease is transferred through the tsetse fly saliva and is proven fatal in those who do not receive treatment in time. So next time you see a little fly on you, don't just go like this and think nothing of it. Remember, it might have just bit you and given you a nasty disease. Number 2 are fleas. Beyond the obvious torment that these insects cause our pets, it may surprise you to learn that fleas are possibly responsible for more human deaths than any war our planet has ever seen. These creatures are parasites, measuring only 1.5 millimeters to 3.3 millimeters long. But don't let their size fool you. The wingless hopping pests sustain themselves by piercing their prey's skin with their proboscis and sucking their blood while staying attached through the use of their powerful claws. Gotcha now. While these bites are more annoying than painful, mostly because of the itch that comes with them, they often also bring diseases, many of them quite serious. The best example is also the most lethal, the bubonic plague, also known as the Black Death, which fleas transferred from host to host, helping to take nearly 200 million lives. Excuse me, I'm going to get one of those bugs out before I do. And number 1 is the mosquito. Nobody likes being bitten by mosquitoes, but anyone who's been in warm climates has almost definitely been on the insect's menu. With the bites being so common, it may surprise you that many experts consider the tiny parasites to be the most deadly insects on planet Earth. So, just how close have you been to having your life snuffed out by these diminutive pests? Well, it's unlikely that you'd ever die of blood loss, as even in large swarms, it's next to impossible for them to take enough plasma to seriously hurt you. No, the threat from them comes from the diseases they often carry, many of them being quite serious, such as West Nile virus, yellow fever, and malaria. The dangers they pose have made their species the most deadly animal family in the world. So remember that next time you go, anyway. You're gonna sleep well tonight, huh? But those are the 10 deadliest insects in the world. And if you guys enjoyed this, remember to give it a big like. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel, and be sure to turn on notifications by clicking the bell beside the subscribe button so that you never miss a thing, because I release new videos all the time. Thank you guys for watching. and I'll see you next time. Bye. Children's songs were a part of all of our lives when we were young. They were either sang to us or we sang them ourselves. But many of those songs that we sang out of fun actually originated out of dark and disturbing. Here are 10 terrifying origin stories behind popular children's songs. Number 10 is Frere Jacques. Frere Jacques is an easy song for young children to learn, about checking in on Brother John's sleeping habits and reminding him that it is now morning. However, this 17th century song, originally sung by French Catholics, would be perfectly fine if it wasn't based entirely in bigotry and discrimination. Its origins trace back to when Catholics would walk through Jewish neighborhoods, taunting its residents on their way to Mass on Sundays when morning bells are ringing. The true meaning of the song actually suggests that Jewish people are a lazy and sacrilegious group who lay in bed on Sundays. A song based in prejudice that is still sung openly by children to this day, and they don't even know it. Number 9 is Rockabye Baby. Rockabye Baby is a song about a crook of a tree during a windstorm where a newborn baby is placed. However, it's not as innocent a song as you might think. King James II of the House of Stuart, who ruled England for 4 short tumultuous years from 1685 to 1688, battled for supremacy with the English Parliament and lost, losing his crown along with it. James was the last Roman Catholic monarch of the British Isles, who desperately tried to create a male heir with his wife, Mary of Modena. However, after many failed attempts, they ended up smuggling a baby boy into the birthing room and claimed it was theirs. The wind blowing is said to be the influence of Protestantism from the Netherlands, and the tree metaphor itself describes James II's precarious position as an overly ambitious person who climbed too high and fell down hard. This song is literally about stealing a newborn baby. Number 8 is Sing a Song of Sixpence. The lyrics to Sing a Song of Sixpence are pure madness if you actually listen to them, almost as if a mad court jester himself wrote the lyrics. The modern version of this song often adds a stanza with a happy ending, where the maid gets her nose back, but the original song is sinister in addition to being insane. The first known printed version of the song was found in Tommy Thumb's Children's Songbook, published in 1744, and has the pie stuff with naughty boys. The song was also sung in ports as a code to recruit new crew for pirate ships, most famously Blackbeard, who paid a generous sixpence daily to his blackbirds. Disturbingly, these thieves and rapists would hide below the deck until they took ships by surprise and would literally and savagely cut off noses. Hence the lyrics of the song, "Along came a blackbird and snipped off her nose." Number 7 is Ring Around the Rosie. The true meaning of Ring Around the Rosie was actually to keep kids who lived during the Dark Ages compliant with horrifying songs of death and pestilence. Ring Around the Rosie is not a song about rosy-cheeked cherubs holding hands and frolicking in a circle, but instead is in fact about a plague called the Black Death that decimated 1/3 of Europe's population from 1347 to
So bored.
1665, which killed approximately 100,000 in Great Britain. Ring Around the Rosie refers to rash marks on the skin, an early indicator of infection. A pocketful of posies was a superstitious way in the Middle Ages to ward off plague with flowers in your pocket. Ashes to ashes refers to cremation, as well as the last rites given by a priest, and dust to dust we all fall down. Well, you can probably figure out the rest for yourself. Number 6 is Jimmy Crack Corn. You may have wondered just who this Jimmy fellow is, and why does he not care about cracking corn? Well, disturbingly, this
Oh, Jimmy doesn't
seemingly
care about
innocent,
cracking corn.
simplistic
Oh my
children's
God.
song has its
No,
roots
Jimmy,
in the
no.
antebellum South during the dark days of slavery. The song was originally called Blue Tail Fly and was sung by the Virginia minstrels, racist white men in blackface mocking the recently emancipated slaves. The true meaning of the song is about an unhappy slave whose job was to swat flies away from his master riding on horseback until one of those flies bites the horse, causing it to buck, knocking the master off, who cracks his head open and dies. Jimmy Crack used to be Jim Crack, which was a cheap corn whiskey that this slave supposedly kicked back and drank while celebrating his master's death. Number 5 is Rub-a-Dub-Dub.
Rub-a-dub-dub.
This children's rhyme has different versions, but all are salacious, even by today's standards. The original 14th century version of the rhyme actually sings about 3 maids in a tub and referred to a peep show that was part of the adult-only section of traveling fairs. The true meaning of the song is to actually implicate 3 respectable craftsmen, all pillars of their community, going to the strip club. Later versions of the rhyme put those same peeping toms in the tub together, with the lyrics, 3 men in a tub, turned them out, knaves all 3. This lyric seems to indicate some sort of homosexual 3-way, something that was demonized at the time. The rhyme was later sanitized by the Victorians, but there are many who know the true origins of this children's story. Number 4 is Big Rock, Candy Mountain. This children's song about a glorious kid version of paradise where the sun shines every day and is filled with lemonade springs and peppermint trees is, in reality, a warning to children about hobos. These are all false promises made by hobo gangs to kids as they recruit them to beg and busk for food and money on their behalf. And what's worse is that they would even occasionally pimp out these children. Songwriter Harry McClintock recorded the much cleaned up, censor-friendly version in 1928 that became an instant classic, but there has been a much more sinister version around since 1898, warning the dangers of life on the street, that included the line, "But I ain't seen any candy." The McClintock version is best known today as comical, but the true origins of this song are a terrifying cautionary tale. Number 3 is There Was an Old Woman Who Lived in a Shoe. This sweet-sounding song actually shames single mothers, indicating destitution is around the corner where you can't even feed your kids bread. The song has come a long way from the first printed version, found in Grammar Girton's Garland, published in 1794, that ends with "She whipped all their bums," to today's version, which says "kissed all of them soundly." However, child abuse is just the beginning, because in Infant Institutes, published in 1797, the old woman goes coffin shopping, either for the kids or herself. The true meaning of this song has roots in pain and death to children. Number 2 is Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush. The lyrics to Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush seem like a perfectly good way to ingrain good manners, hygiene, and obedience in children. But the song was actually first sung by female prisoners, whose children lived with them in Her Majesty's Wakefield Prison in West Yorkshire, England, that was opened in 1594. The prison had mulberry bush in the yard that women walked around for exercise while they sang to their kids. This is the way bale the hay and paint the fence were chores that the prisoners' kids were expected to perform, or else they were beaten by the prison guards. The hygiene lyrics, like wash the face, were ways that the kids could protect themselves from typhoid and cholera in these overcrowded, horrendous conditions. And number 1 is London Bridge is Falling Down. Despite London Bridge is Falling Down's lyrics about shoddy construction and engineering, the song's mid-18th century origins are much darker. The first time London Bridge fell down was in the early 11th century when the Vikings, led by Olaf II of Norway, invaded England and burned down the bridge. A more likely source of the song involves immurement, the superstitious process of entombing someone within a structure to make it more sound. The entombed was typically a child, who became the eternal watchman of church and castles all over Europe. In one particular case, a child's skeleton was discovered after the demolition of Bridgegate in Bremen, Germany. Today, children unknowingly role-play immurement during the London Bridge game, bringing down their clasped hands and trapping the last kid who runs underneath. So, those were 10 terrifying origin stories behind popular children's songs. But if you enjoyed this, remember to give it a thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click the bell beside the subscribe button to enable notifications so that you never miss a thing, because I release new videos all the time. Thank you for watching. Sweet dreams. Yeah, the human race invented a lot of cool stuff, but nothing beats the emoji. What better way to express yourself? The human race is an incredible species. Every year, we are continuously inventing new and amazing things that make our lives better. But there have been some specific inventions in the past that were so amazing they changed the world forever. Here are the 10 greatest inventions that changed the world. Number 10 is the compass. It's like early GPS, which is something I definitely need because I have no sense of direction. In the past, civilizations were bound by their respective landmasses, so ancient mariners couldn't get far navigating by stars during daylight or cloudy nights. It was actually the Chinese during the Qin dynasty from 221 to 206 BC who invented the first compass using lodestones containing iron oxide that aligned itself with north and south. And by the 8th century AD, lodestone magnetized needles were standard navigation devices aboard most ships. Through trade, the compass found its way into the hands of European as well as Arab societies, and the compass replaced astronomical navigation by the 14th century. It was this device that ignited the Age of Discovery. For me, it was GPS that ushered in the Age of Discovery, because before that, I would just get lost a lot. It was scary. Number 9 is gunpowder. Now don't let the hippies and peaceniks fool you. Yes, gunpowder may have resulted in deaths in the past, but it also helped human civilization expand as well as consolidate. Chinese alchemists invented gunpowder during the 9th century when they discovered carbon from charcoal plus an oxidizer forms carbon dioxide that creates energy. It was that energy that could propel fireworks, but the Song dynasty soon realized its raw power against the hostile Mongols. Gunpowder eventually found its way into the Middle East as well as Europe along the Silk Road in the 13th century, allowing cannons and guns to pierce armor and destroy castle walls. Prior to its invention, military combat was exclusive to knights with broadswords, battle axes, and bow and arrows. Okay, so gunpowder did result in the death of a lot of people, but fireworks are good. Okay, a lot of people died, but fireworks. Number 8 is the printing press. The printing press democratized knowledge beyond a small collection of religious scholars who regurgitated what they read to the illiterate masses. Believe it or not, books were almost exclusively written by monks about religious matters, so only men of God and noblemen could actually read. But that all changed in 1439 when Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press in Mainz, Germany. His device used movable type that could be mechanized to print up to 3,600 pages a day. By 1500, 1,000 Gutenberg presses were in use, and by 1600, 200 million books had been published in Europe, sparking the Age of Enlightenment. Today, we also use them to print books, of course, but we also use them to print comics about cats in Mad Magazine. What a time to be alive. Number 7 is the steam engine. Every motorized vehicle we use today, from cars to rocket ships, would not be possible without the invention of the steam engine. Knowledge about the power of steam has existed since the 1st century AD, but it was English inventor and engineer Thomas Savery who harnessed its raw power in 1698. From there, steam-powered improvements in transportation, agriculture, and manufacturing allowed superpowers like Great Britain and the United States to expand their influence. The steam engine's principle of energy into motion set the stage that allowed for innovations like internal combustion engines and jet turbines that keep the world moving today. Look at that! You thought Thomas the Tank Engine was just a silly cartoon. He's an engineering marvel. Number 6 are contraceptives. Ever since humans have started making babies, they have also tried to not make babies. Coitus interruptus, as it's officially called, dates all the way back to the Old Testament. In addition, ancient Egyptians used crocodile dung to absorb sperm, Chinese concubines drank deadly mercury after sex, and Middle Ages Europeans tied weasel testicles to their thighs. Primitive condoms were even made out of goat bladders that were somewhat effective in 3000 BC. Kronk have a go at you now, just let me get goat. American inventor Charles Goodyear was the first one to patent a condom in 1884 using vulcanized rubber techniques, also patenting cervical caps called womb veils. But it still took another century for effective contraception to be created when Austrian scientist Karl Gerasi created the progesterone pill that blocks ovulation. And finally, in May of 1960, the FDA officially approved the pill. That also brought along the sexual revolution as well as bell-bottoms for some reason. It's a weird time. Number 5 is the light bulb. It's actually hard to overstate the importance of the light bulb for civilization, but here's one way. Spend the whole day with your eyes closed. Life before light bulbs was literally in the dark, with most people just going to bed after sundown because there was nothing else to do or see. Thomas Edison is typically credited with the invention of the light bulb, but it was actually British Humphrey Davy who invented the first electric light in 1802. Other inventors like Warren Delarue helped advance the light bulb by coiling platinum in 1840, but Thomas Edison filed the first patent for a practical incandescent lamp in 1878 for everyday use. The light bulb has since changed mankind's sleeping patterns and allowed us to become nocturnal, and also allowed us to not get eaten by scary things that go boom in the night. Number 4 is the refrigerator. Is your refrigerator running? Then you better go catch it, because without the ability to keep your food cold, a hostile bacteria party in your body is assured. Refrigeration has been around since about 1000 BC in China. But later, in about 500 BC, Egyptians and Indians used earthen pots to make ice and later cellars, caves, and salt to keep food fresh. Scotsman William Cullen observed in the 1720s that evaporation has a cooling effect. That propelled Englishman Michael Faraday's discovery that liquefied ammonia causes cooling, the science behind modern compression refrigeration. Commercial refrigeration became available in 1890, and General Electric's The Guardian became available in homes by 1911. As of today, 99.5% of American homes have a refrigerator, which accounts for about 20% of energy consumption worldwide. Well, us North Americans definitely love to eat our food, specifically Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out. If there's leftovers, you can't throw them out. You gotta store them somehow. Delicious. Number 3 is penicillin. Picture this. Before antibiotics, pneumonia and diarrhea were the #1 killers in a civilized world. Ancient civilizations used antibiotics without understanding bacteria, like the Egyptians, who treated wounds with moldy bread. Shut up! Just put a piece of bread on it. German physician Paul Ehrlich discovered the first modern antibiotic, arsphenamine, in 1909 to treat syphilis. But the real game changer in modern medicine was the clumsy discovery in 1928 by Scottish microbiologist Alexander Fleming, who left cultures undiscovered in his lab during his vacation and discovered the fungus Penicillium. The Penicillium notatum that had grown created bacteria-free zones, and thus penicillin, the wonder drug, was born. It reduced pneumonia deaths during World War II down to 1% and extended human lifespans by decades. All because a guy couldn't keep a clean work area. Learn from that, kids. Don't clean up ever. Just kidding. I know your parents killed you. Number 2 is the telegraph. Before the telephone, the internet, or even Tinder, the telegraph modernized long-distance communications and launched the information age. Ancient civilizations used drum beats and smoke signals to exchange information between distances, but minor things like weather could interfere with effective communication, while letters carried on ships often came too late. Samuel Morse of Morse code fame changed all of that when he used his single-circuit telegraph to send the first dots and dashes message from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore, Maryland in 1844. By 1866, a telegraph line connected the United States with continental Europe, which changed the way humanity communicated and impacted everything, including government, trade, banking, industry, warfare, and media. And if you think you don't have patience now, imagine back then when you had to wait for a I love you by... It's just annoying. And number 1 is the internet. My personal favorite thing. I live here. For all of you that use the internet on a regular basis to communicate with people, back in the day, people actually used to talk to each other. I know, it's crazy. Now, the internet doesn't really have a single inventor, but it all began with a paper written by Leonard Kleinrock in 1961 called Information Flow in Large Communication Nets. 1969 was huge because we put a man on the moon, but the U.S. Defense Department also launched the Advanced Research Projects Agency network known as ARPANET. It was that created the internet communication protocols that we use today. The internet for decades was exclusive to military and universities, who shared large swaths of information on closed networks. But in 1991, the World Wide Web was created by Tim Berners-Lee that democratized the internet that we now know. Now we can eat, shop, and date without even leaving the house. Remember outside? I don't. And those were the 10 greatest inventions that changed the world. But if you guys enjoyed this, remember to give it a big thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click the little notification bell beside the subscribe button so that you can enable notifications so you never miss a thing, because I release new videos all the time. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time on the interwebs. Bye. I'm lurking in the shadows. Just kidding, I could never be an assassin. I have the agility of a bull in a china shop. When you think of assassins, you probably think of agile, methodic, secretive characters that hide in the shadows. But as it turns out, some of the deadliest assassins of all time were not only not that secretive, but they had some of the craziest methods for carrying out their work that you will not believe. Here are the 10 deadliest assassins of all time. Number 10 is the axe-wielding bear. 17th century Swiss political leader Jörg Jenestich's murder might be the most bearish assassination in history. Pun intended. Jenestich was a vicious Protestant leader with contempt for Spanish Catholics. He even pinned his political rival Pompeius von Planten to the floor and murdered him. Well, flash forward 18 years to Carnival in the town of Chur. Jörg is drinking with his entourage, all in costume, so no one thinks twice about inviting a man in a bear costume who's wielding an axe to the revelry. Jörg tried to shake the bear's hand, but it was Rudolf von Planten, son of Pompeius in disguise, who shot his father's murderer in the stomach, and yet Jenestich still grabbed a giant candlestick and was able to fight back before eventually just dying. You know, I get it. The guy was in a bear costume all snugly. Oh, how cute. But the guy was holding an axe. Yep, nobody would have saw that coming. Big sharp axe in his face. Number 9 is the exotic dancer spy. World War I Europe was an incredibly dangerous place to be, and in the rationale of the time, no place for a woman. But don't tell that to Margaretha MacLeod. This German intelligence officer is considered to be the greatest woman spy of the 20th century. But what's most interesting is that she went by the name Mata Hari, an exotic dancer who performed the Dance of Seven Veils across Europe for English and French soldiers. MacLeod had a Dutch passport, so she could freely travel around wartime Europe, taking many high-ranking officers as lovers, many of whom she murdered before stealing military secrets. Hari ended up passing along her stolen intel to the Germans that led to the deaths of almost 50,000 French soldiers. Even after she was caught as a spy and executed, she was a flirt, blowing a kiss at the firing squad before they shot her in 1917. Okay, I know you're gonna kill me, but I still look good. Number 8 is the she-tiger. Just like Hari, this person used her femininity and sexual prowess to fight for Basque independence from Spain in the 1980s. Known as La Tigresa, meaning the she-tiger, she was a dedicated commando in the ETA, which stands for Basque Homeland and Liberty. She was responsible for 23 deaths. Specifically, in 1986, at the age of just 20, La Tigresa set a car bomb in Madrid that killed 12 civil guards, another car bomb that killed 5 civilians, and seduced a police officer in order to gain access to police stations before shooting him and another 5 police officers. In 2003, she was sentenced to 2,000 years in jail, but in 2011 apologized and unbelievably was released early in June of 2017. Yep, that's right, she's on the streets right now. Enjoy sleeping tonight. Number 7 is the Iceman. Richard Leonard Kuklinski is considered America's most prolific contract killer, nicknamed the Iceman, because he froze his victims to hide the time of their death. He was only ever convicted for 2 murders, but claims to have killed up to 250 people over 30 years. That means 1 murder every 6 weeks. Kuklinski was the go-to killer for the Gambino Mafia crime family, and unlike many other serial killers, he had no routine. Specifically, he would use guns, knives, bats, lumber, tire irons, ice picks, fire, cyanide, and even his bare fists that he claimed he did for the exercise. Oh yes, getting a good one in today. The strangest thing is that when he wasn't murdering people for money, he was a family man living a quiet life in New Jersey. He was even an usher in his church, but his luck ran out in 1988 when he was sentenced to 2 life sentences, but freely spoke about his crimes up until his death in 2006. There you go, just makes you wonder who's living next door. Number 6 is the Super Killer. Agent 47 from the video game Hitman was actually inspired by Alexander Solonik, known as the Super Killer to the Russian criminal underworld. As a Soviet Special Forces member in East Berlin, he was tasked as an assassin of NATO diplomats. Believe it or not, what landed him in jail was not murders, but a rape conviction, and he ended up breaking out of the Siberian gulag and became a hitman for hire. He immediately started taking out high-ranking Russian mafia bosses protected by armies of bodyguards. And he'd either do this as a sniper from great distances or show up at nightclubs and kill his target and crew with dual pistols blaring. Police eventually caught up with him in 1995, but he ended up taking out 5 cops with a hidden machine gun before eventually returning to jail, escaping again, and created his own 50-strong assassin squad in Greece. Eventually he was found strangled in Athens in 1997. How appropriate, an assassin was assassinated. That's just irony. Number 5 is Caesarea. In 1989, Palestinian political organization Hamas's chief weapons maker, Mahmoud al-Mabou, shot an Israeli soldier in cold blood. However, Israel had the last laugh in 2010 after Mabou's body was discovered in the luxury Al Bustan Rotana in Dubai. His cause of death was a brain hemorrhage, which seemed improbable, so Dubai investigators looked into it. What they discovered was that 27 people from Mossad's Caesarea unit flew flew in under different passports and left soon after. A German immigration attorney ended up discovering that multiple people in the Queseria forged identities and documents to acquire German passports used to enter Dubai without notice. Seriously, these people must be really good at what they do, because I can't even bring a dang bottle of water through the airport. It's like I'm a criminal. Number 4 is the cartel hitman. Martin Corona's book, Confessions of a Cartel Hitman, released in July of 2017, details his violent life as an enforcer for the Arellano Felix organization. It was this organization that inspired the movie Traffic, with their sadistic methods like Mexican Stew, where they stuffed men into 55-gallon drums of hot lye. Corona was recruited to David Popeye Barron's death squad in 1993 after he saved Ramon Arellano's life, fighting off 40 gunmen sent by El Chapo Guzman with a single AK-47. This guy's like an assassin Rambo. He tried to retaliate against El Chapo inside the Guadalajara airport but missed. But he still continued onto a long and lucrative murder-for-hire spree on both sides of the US-Mexico border. He would often wear disguises to trick his victims like nerdy glasses, but in 2000 he turned on his bosses, working with the California Justice Department to dismantle the AFO. See, as it turns out, you can't judge a book by its cover. You never know what they're capable of. Number 3 is the camel. Jesus Ernesto Chavez Castillo's street gang, Barrio Azteca, were the Juarez drug cartel's go-to hitmen until 2014. That was until Castillo testified against his former boss, Arturo Gallegos Castrellan. Chavez confessed to 800 murders but says that he lost count, and claims to have had a daily murder quota to instill fear in cops, politicians, and the people of Ciudad Juarez, the murder capital of the world. His confessions came after Mexican police allegedly tortured him with electric shocks to the testicles. But killing wasn't enough to please his boss Castrellan, so he would often dismember and behead his victims, leaving their bodies in public places to make sure he made headlines. Unbelievably, since his imprisonment at the end of the drug cartel war, the Juarez murder rate dropped by 2/3. Dang, that man was busy! I mean, I believe in being good at your job, but that's taken a little too far. Number 2 is the political assassin. Photographer Buran Ozbilicki's stark image of Mevlut Mert Altintasv with a gun and his finger in the air, while Russian ambassador to Turkey Andrei Karlov lies dead beside him, was declared 2016's Photo of the Year. The Ankara Modern Arts Center was hosting an exhibition created by the Russian Embassy on December 19, 2016. Ambassador Karlov was a few minutes into a speech about improving strained Turkish-Russian relations when a man in a suit shot him 9 times in the back, shouting revenge for Syria and Aleppo. The gunman, who engaged in a 15-minute shootout with police before ultimately being killed, was Altintasv. He was an off-duty member of the Ankara police riot squad and a member of the Syrian branch of Al-Qaeda. Man, even police are assassins. You can't trust anybody. And number 1 are the lady killers. Kim Jong-nam was a playboy living in exile when he was suddenly poisoned in the Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia on Valentine's Day 2016. His assassins were Indonesian Siti Aisyah and Vietnamese Don Thi Huang, who sprayed the poison in his face, claiming it was a prank. The reason that they were so unsuspecting was because Miss Huang was wearing really casual clothing, specifically a sweater that said LOL on it. Well, getting sprayed in the face with a VX nerve agent isn't exactly LOL. It's more like OMG. So, those were the 10 deadliest assassins of all time. And if you guys enjoyed this, remember to give it a big thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications by clicking the little bell beside the subscribe button so that you never miss a thing, because I release new videos all the time. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Now, Timmy, don't go base jumping again. I took the chute out of your backpack, what? Sports are a great time for many people. They build skills in working with a team, improve your health, and are exciting. But that's not enough for some people. In fact, some people take it farther and engage in extreme sports that are not only incredibly dangerous, but illegal. Here are the 10 craziest extreme sports that are illegal. Number 10 is underground bicycle racing. You mean with training wheels? A little bit? Nope, not that. What could possibly go wrong when you combine aggression, anger, and being amped up on coffee with some of the baddest bikers on Earth? Known as alley cat racing, these illegal events are held without permits as racers weave through traffic, leading to countless collisions and arrests. It's just like Fast and the Furious, except way more dangerous in real life. These extreme cyclists will ride on sidewalks, grab onto bumpers of taxis, ride against the flow of traffic, and cut through private property, including restaurants, anything in order to win. Meant to recreate the hectic day of a bike courier, the annual Cycle Messenger World Championship is held in different cities annually around the world, in places like New York City, Berlin, and even Toronto. So next time you see a guy crazily racing around the city on a bicycle, he might actually be racing, or delivering food, or both. Number 9 is bouldering. Bouldering is a combination of bouldering, which is rock climbing without a safety harness, and buildings. So people basically climb the sides of skyscrapers without any way to keep them from splatting on the pavement. Even with a harness and rope, bouldering is totally illegal because it usually involves trespassing. And no city in their right mind would ever issue a permit for this, but that's what makes it appealing, is the illegalness of it. The sport is especially popular in Russia, where people apparently already have a death wish, like Max Polozov, who breaks into buildings to climb to insane heights to capture radical footage below. But the face of the sport is Alain Robert, known as the French Spider-Man, who has been arrested more than 100 times, climbing structures including the Empire State Building and the Golden Gate Bridge. Well, I don't like spiders or heights, so I'm definitely not doing this. Number 8 is urban exploration. Imagine that all around you, likely underneath your feet, there is a whole world waiting to be explored, like some modern urban Magellan or Columbus. Similar to the illegality of bouldering, urban exploration usually requires breaking and entering to participate in the sport, where you explore abandoned buildings and document the beautiful decay. And okay, we just broke in and there's a rat eating man's face. Urban explorers have entire societies that are dedicated to wandering together through these derelict buildings, tunnels, sewers, and abandoned subway tracks. And the craziest part is they often expose themselves to contamination like asbestos and biohazards. If you're in the sewer, you could probably guess what the biohazard is. Arrests for trespassing are very common for these brave souls going where few have gone before, or even want to go. Why would you want to be surrounded by poopies in a sewer, man? Number 7 is elevator surfing. Regular surfing itself can be a dangerous sport, with the threat of drowning, beach brawls, and shark attacks. But elevator surfing, where you ride the top of an elevator car as it goes up and down, is so extreme it's kind of just stupid. But no offense if you want to do it, you just go ahead, I'm gonna just let natural selection take over. The sport, if you can call it that, began in the mid-1980s as a way for teens and college students to keep themselves entertained before the internet was invented. Surfers generally work in duos, with one inside the elevator car controlling the elevator car itself and choose what floor they go to, while the surfer hangs 10, or whatever the slang is for you elevator surfers. And if you guessed it that people have died doing it, you're 100% correct, hence being illegal and explicitly banned in cities and universities. I say universities specifically because for some reason, students love to do this. Way. Number 6 is train surfing. For impoverished people in the third world who cannot afford train tickets in places like India, Indonesia, and Guatemala, riding on the top of trains is an unfortunate necessity that often leads to death or dismemberment. However, in first world countries, badasses with a death wish call it train surfing, and it's illegal in just about every country on Earth, with some cities installing concrete balls above train tracks to discourage the practice. This so-called sport began in Germany in the 1990s, but it died out there after a quick succession of deaths. But thanks to YouTube, train surfing is back with a vengeance, with lunatics risking their lives for viral glory. Yeah, nobody does that nowadays, doing crazy stuff on camera for views. In fact, in September of 2017, a New York City teenager fell off an F train in Brooklyn, and it was not a good sight. He cut open his face and ruptured his testicles. All just to show how ballsy he was. Number 5 is wingsuit jumping. If God or evolution or whatever you believe that makes humans human intended us to fly like birds, then we would probably have wings. Wingsuits are illegal in all United States national parks for a very good reason. The user of these gravity-defying outfits are often scraped off the side of mountains and put in a body bag. Take world-famous wingsuit flyers Dean Potter and Graham Hunt, who took flight in July of 2015 in Yosemite National Park from Taft Point to a 1,067-meter drop. Well, just 22 seconds after they were lost, the restored iPhone footage and autopsy reports indicated that both slammed head first into the ridgeline at over 160 kilometers an hour, and it was their final flight. Literally, it was their final flight. They planned it to be their final flight, but natural selection took care of the rest. Number 4 is drag racing. Drag racing on city streets isn't a traditional extreme sport that mostly involves risking death with your own body, but it is certainly extreme and extremely illegal. Amateur racers who don't have a NASCAR sponsorship will bring their own customized car down to a designated street late at night to test their mettle and see whose machismo can go from 0 to 100 the fastest. Even Justin Bieber was arrested in Miami during his bad boy era for racing his rented yellow Lamborghini down a street. But pampered pop stars aside, a drag race in 2008 in Maryland ended tragically when a white sedan crashed into a crowd of onlookers, killing 8 people. If you really want to test your driving skills, don't do that. Play a little Mario Kart instead. It's a fun game. You just look out for the blue shell, because that is a biatch. Number 3 is urban slacklining. People who never ran away to the circus but always wanted to can go out and recreate the circus with a tightrope between 2 trees called slacklining. Now that's kind of fun, but between 2 buildings is a big no-no. On August 7th, 1974, the then 24-year-old Frenchman Philippe Petit walked a tightrope between the World Trade Center's Twin Towers in New York City. Not only did he risk plummeting 541 meters down, where he would most certainly have become one with the pavement, but he went back and forth 8 times across a 61-meter gap over the course of 45 minutes. If I even look over my balcony, I poop my pants, so I would not do that. Called the artistic crime of the century, he and his assistants were all arrested right after, and he was taken to a psych ward for having a death wish. Look, slacklining is basically illegal everywhere. It's very dangerous. Don't go do it, because you're going to go splat, splat, and then everyone's going to be sad. Don't do it. Number 2 is street luging. Okay, I get vertigo just watching ice luge races during the Winter Olympics, so I'm downright terrified of its icy counterpart, street luging. This is where riders are in a supine position on a skateboard-like contraption, flying at speeds that exceed 113 kilometers an hour. Much like the Flintstones, the only brakes are your feet, so chances of a collision are high, and being so low to the ground, your chance of being squashed by cars and trucks is very high. Look at the fast I'm going! But in spite of the illegality of the sport worldwide, organizations like Gravity Sports International are teaching new lugers safe practices, generally off the actual street. Well, yeah, I would hope it's off the actual street, because you can't be like, thank you for your $100. Now just go on the road and just do your best. And number 1 is base jumping. Like wingsuit jumping, base jumping is illegal in U.S. national parks because it's so dangerous and often leads to the morgue. Traditional base jumping combines mountain climbing with skydiving, so the extreme sportsman or woman climbs a mountain and then just jumps off. Base jumpers enjoy a few fleeting seconds of free fall before they pull the chute and then drift down, often to be arrested by park rangers with $2,000 fines. But then there's base jumping off of buildings and skyscrapers. jumpers, which involves some very illegal breaking and entering, or some building up first and then jumping. Due to the illegality of it, urban base jumpers tend to jump late at night or the crack of dawn to minimize getting caught and the threats to public safety. Please don't jump off very tall buildings. Could you imagine just walking around and all of a sudden you see a shadow and you're like, there's a man coming! So, those are the 10 craziest extreme sports that are illegal. And if you guys enjoyed this, remember to give it a big thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel and make sure you turn on notifications by clicking the bell beside the subscribe button so that you never miss a thing, because I release new videos all the time. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the top of a building! No, I'm just kidding. Bye! La 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 la. Oh, hey, how are you? Don't mind me, just pulling a Jamie Lannister over here. Just kidding, it's actually the Infinity Gauntlet. I'm from the future. Science fiction often presents us with an exaggerated idea of the future of humanity fused with technology. Mechanical bodies, bionic eyes, and interchangeable limbs are all things that sound really cool and futuristic, except that it's not science fiction, nor is it the future. These things are available right now. Here are 10 new technologies that will make you a cyborg. Number 10 is a finger flash drive. Fingers are what make mankind superior, or at the very least advanced, over the animal kingdom, and allow us to do all kinds of things like use tools. Well, Finnish computer programmer Jerry Jalava took that to a whole nother level when he installed a 2 GB USB flash drive into one of his fingers. Hey lady, don't mind me, just downloading yo info. The cyber-fingered man from Finland didn't remove the ring finger on his left hand to accomplish this goal. Instead, he actually lost it in a motorcycle accident when he crashed into a deer. The doctors joked that since he was a computer nerd, he might as well replace his finger with a finger drive, but Jalava took them up on that. His fake finger looks like a real finger, but it's detachable so he can insert it into a computer. Now that's all well and good, but I'm sure you're thinking the same as me. Why would you insert a 2 gig flash drive? That is a very small amount. You can get like a terabyte on that biatch now. Think ahead, bruh. Think ahead. Number 9 are smart prosthetic limbs. You can do almost anything with a smartphone nowadays, from order dinner to meet the love of your life and take super flattering selfies with digital cat ears. But did you know that you can also control prosthetic limbs? Touch Bionics has created an eye limb that's like Luke Skywalker's hand in Star Wars, with 5 individually powered fingers and a rotating thumb and wrist. It is the most dexterous